All right, young scholars, it is now our second week of CSS. Important note that I'll touch on now and at the end. You now have your second team assignment coming up, the team website rough draft proposal. As mentioned, you're essentially going to create a proposal for a website you're going to create for someone else. Doesn't necessarily have to be real. You're going to provide an introduction, describe who all of you are, the problem, what's the issue, the solution, how do you solve the problem, the deliverables, what's going to be on the website. You might want to include a drawing or sketch of that specific page. And the process and cost. The process is, what are the steps on how you're going to create the website? The costs are, what are the costs? How much is it going to cost this person? And if you visit this website, you'll see specific examples provided for you. So last week, we learned some basic CSS code and how to enhance HTML pages with it. This week, we'll see more examples and work primarily with the code, HTML and CSS. So all of these slides feature example code. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm only going to do 4 of them, specific examples. This example I'm not going to show you. However, you'll notice here max width 500 pixels, height 100 pixels. All we're doing here is using CSS code to edit the size of the background or body that we're using. I mentioned previously how in the past, Internet Explorer showed things differently. This is why you might use CSS to do that. Modify the display so this way it could fit on a phone, laptop, just the same. We previously talked about borders. Well, you can use CSS to create outlines as well. So there's dotted, dash, solid, double, groove, ridge, inset, and outset outlines that you can place around text using these CSS commands. So here's another example I'm going to talk about, but not show you specifically. So this icon here that's linked with the script source is that little image or symbol logo on a website that's going to pop up on the side of the URL listing of a website, and it's linked through this script source as mentioned. So say on WordPress, you'll see the little circle next to the lock with a WP. That would be the icon of the website. These next 2 slides, I've copied the code to show you an example of how lists can be changed or enhanced using CSS. So I copied the left-hand side and then the right-hand side, and then all of slide 6 and copy it into my WYSIWYG and click run. And you'll now see that our lists are set up differently. So first we have an ordered list, coffee, tea, Coca-Cola, 1, 2, 3, right in order. Our unordered list simply gives us bullets, coffee, tea, Coca-Cola. But we've used CSS here to set these up. So our ordered list is going to have that background color. The padding is how much room there is from the left-hand side. And then the links have a different background color. The text color is set to dark red. And then with the unordered list, the background is set differently. The color is set to dark blue. So you notice unordered list, background, ordered list background, unordered list background. Then the links have different backgrounds and their text is set up dark red and dark blue respectively. As you saw last week, that is how we can modify to create drop downs as well. So I'm also going to show you how CSS can help us enhance tables. If you were to copy the code from slide 7, 8, 9, 10 on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, and 11, and pop it into your WYSIWYG and click run, you now have a fancy table. We have our company, contact, country, all of the table data we've put in, as you'll see within that code on those slides. But if you scroll up to the top, we've now set it where this table is basically created as a customer's table. We've set up everything to be a certain font family. We've set a border, 1 pixel. That's why you can kind of barely see the boxes around. You'll notice that if you scroll over, we now have a different color because of the hover. Background color set differently. We've set our text to align left. The background color for all of these others is set to be one way. However, our top is set at this completely different green color. So you notice here, background color, for some of them are gray, others are white. That is what we've done using our CSS code. And then once we get out of the CSS code, we simply start putting together our table. We have to set the ID as customers so that it refers back to all of the CSS code we created above within the style tag. And then you'll see here, we put in all of these specific pieces of information. So as you saw when we did tables in HTML, because we have company, contact, and country, all of the other table rows have to have 3 pieces of information with them as well. And we close out our table, just as you've seen in the past. Now, if you were to copy the code on slides 12 through 18, we create an awesome image gallery example. So you've seen previously that we can embed images within the table, but using CSS, if we copy that into our WYSIWYG, we could simply have them displayed in a gallery. So if you copy that and run, you'll see, oh, there's only 1 image there. Whereas if these other 3 images were linked and still up on the WYSIWYG, it would allow us to alternate between the 4 images. On certain displays, it'll show them 2 by 2. On others, 1 by 1, depending on what your setting is. So here, our image source for mountains, this is no longer up on the WYSIWYG website. So that is why it is most common where professionals will use an entire URL to link any source they have, whether it be a CSS file, a JavaScript file, an image file. This way, even if you're working on the web page offline, not on a web browser, it'll refer back to that image. So you can look and, oh, okay, well, that's linked there. It's going to show up no matter where I'm using it. And you'll see it's pretty much all the same. So this first image is actually uploaded on the WYSIWYG, so it's now displayed. And you notice this entire level of code is set up the same way for each of the image. We refer back to that responsive class. We create a gallery class. We link to our image. We have a source, an alternate description. We set the width and height we have this text of add a description of the image here underneath it. And you'll notice the same block of code for the other three as well. And then lastly for this week, if you copy the code on slide 9, we'll be shown an example of how to create a text shadow using CSS. This is something that was used probably when you guys were in diapers, real little, not to use quite anymore, but it was still cool and nice to look at. So if you were to pop that code in your WYSIWYG and click run, this text shadow effect now has a text shadow 2 pixels wide, 2 pixels height, 5 pixels dimension in red. So if we were to change this code from, or the text from text shadow effect to happy birthday you, it would do the same thing when you run for that code. And you can modify the pixels of the shadow as you so choose as well. So let's change it from 225 to 3310 and run. And now you see the shadow is deeper. So next week, we will also cover a number of specific examples on how you might use CSS. But again, make sure that you and your team are working together to create that rough draft proposal. You'll notice here each section is only 10 points for the rough draft. However, for the final draft, after you get your feedback and fix it up, these bottom 4 will become 35 points instead of 10. So they are worth much more. And as always, if you have any questions, hop into the Zoom meeting this week.